Hi, I'm Rochelle Gentile, president of the Dubuque Symphony Orchestra League. I'm here at the Dubuque Golf and Country Club, kicking off our virtual Soundbite series. Under normal circumstances, you'd be right here with me, enjoying a great lunch and a preview of the DSO's upcoming concert, and I'm sure you will be again soon. As you may know, the DSOL develops and administers projects, programs, and events that provide music education opportunities to folks of all ages, as well as financial support to the DSO and its youth ensemble programs. Each year, the League contributes support to youth education events and programs such as the 3rd and 5th grade Arts Trek concerts, the 4th grade Adopt a Musician program, the Youth Concerto competition, the Dubuque Symphony Youth Ensembles, and the Summer String Camp. Along with our many other endeavors is our Senior Classics program, now in its 9th year, providing performances by DSO musicians to entertain residents and their families at local nursing homes and assisted living centers. While the past year has looked a little different, we continue to focus our efforts on fundraising. We encourage and welcome you to join us in our 54th year of supporting the DSO. Please check out the DSO's website for more information about how you can get involved. We hope to see you soon, but before I go, I'd like to introduce our esteemed music director and conductor, Dr. William Intriligator.
Thank you, Rochelle, and welcome everybody. It's great to be with you again and to complete our Soundbites informational videos for our Classics 2 performances coming up on March 20th and 21st. And as you can see, joining me are 3 of our outstanding musicians in the Dubuque Symphony Orchestra. We're welcome Concertmaster Eleanor Bartsch. Yay, Eleanor. Associate Concertmaster Peter Miliczky. Yay, Peter. And Philip Bergman, who many of you were commenting after Classics 1, did such an outstanding job at those concerts. Philip is our acting principal for this and gets to be featured, as do Eleanor and Peter, in the Corelli Concerto Grosso. So welcome, Philip.
Thank you so much.
It's been great getting to know you over these concerts. Wonderful. So I thought it would be great to feature you guys in this Corelli piece. It was a piece that I heard on the radio, and I was familiar with a lot of Corelli Concerti Grossi, but not this particular one. And when I heard it, I just was so beautiful. I was captivated. And I thought, and this was kind of early on, I think during the pandemic and stuff. And I thought, oh, this would be a beautiful piece to play on one of our concerts and a great way to feature, you know, our outstanding musicians in sort of a triple concerto, if you will. So first off, I guess, who wants to jump in and just sort of, I don't know, maybe tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from originally, where you live now. We'd like to get to know you as people before we talk about Corelli. So I don't know, Eleanor, ladies first and concertmasters first. Why don't you, we know you well, but maybe you can remind us a little bit about your musical journey and your background, please.
Yeah, I was gonna say they know me. I think most know I'm originally from Minneapolis. Started the violin at a young age. Come from a musical family. Both my parents are musicians, so I was lucky enough to grow up. My mom is a great music educator in the Suzuki method, so I started as a really young kid with violin. People always coming in and out of the house playing, and my dad is the church organist and piano accompanist. So always, again, people in and out of the house playing music. Ended up going to University of Wisconsin-Madison for both my bachelor's and master's degrees, and actually where I met both of these gentlemen in this conversation years ago. And that was actually my first experience playing in Dubuque too, you know, just right down the road. And I ended up subbing as an undergraduate a couple times before I got the job as concertmaster officially.
Wow.
Yeah, I think so I joined the orchestra in January 2016. So it'll be just about 5 years.
That's
now.
so wonderful.
Yeah.
We're so lucky. Yay.
Yeah, it's been great. I'm thrilled. So it was great to be back actually in person and see some familiar faces in the audience, half of people's faces.
Over the mask. Yeah. Well, that's great. And so now you're based in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
I'm based. Some of the other things you're doing there.
So I'm playing, this year has of course been different, but playing in a string quartet here for the most part, who does some concerts and a little bit of touring here and there. I play in a couple other orchestras similar to Dubuque that are kind of have intermittent concerts throughout the year. The Elgin Symphony, the Chicago Philharmonic, which also provides music for the Joffrey Ballet. then do some other, freelance chamber music projects around the city as well. I just performed actually a chamber opera that was recorded for virtual use with 8 musicians and 5 singers and all socially distanced. So that was cool. So things come up,
Yeah, that sounds
piecing a life together, I'm sure, as both these guys know.
Yeah, well, that sounds like a cool project. It's great that you're involved in so many things there. And we're so lucky that you still make time to be our concertmaster, and we love featuring you.
Of course.
Peter, tell us a little bit more about your background. Where are you coming from and originally, and how you got started on violin?
Sure. Well, I'm from Washington State originally. Similar to Eleanor, I was a Suzuki kid. And so, yeah, I did my undergrad in Washington at Central Washington University, and then came out here to UW-Madison, where I met Eleanor. So we did our masters at the same time. And so, yeah, I've been around here, stuck around, do similar stuff, play in Madison Symphony and Quad City Symphony, and just filling in everything else with teaching or subbing at other groups. And so, yeah, I've been started subbing with Dubuque like my first year here. So it's been a long journey with Dubuque.
Yeah, we're so lucky. And then you won the associate concertmaster position. I want to say it was pretty long time ago, right?
Yeah, there was a few years where I was kind of standing in, and then I think 2 years ago I won it permanently.
So then is Madison still your home base, and you've been based in Madison this whole time?
Yeah, since 2013 I think I came then. So yeah, been here in Madison, and I like it. It's close to a lot of stuff. There's lots of stuff going on in Iowa and Illinois, so it's a nice home base.
That's true. Yeah, it's a great town. Well, wonderful. And Philip, tell us a little bit more about your musical background and journey.
Sure. So I'm an Iowan. I grew up in Iowa City. I started cello at the age of 5. I saw my pediatric dentist play bass in a bluegrass band, and I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. Asked my mom for a bass for my 5th birthday. She was unable to find one small enough for me, so I decided to start playing cello like my sister Leah. And so then I got to take advantage of a lot of amazing opportunities musically in Iowa City when I was growing up. Did my undergrad at the University of Illinois, and then did my master's with these 2 awesome people here with me at the University of Wisconsin-Madison for a couple of years. After that, I got a gig with a group called the Hyogo Performing Arts Center Orchestra, which is a 3-year training program in Japan, just outside Osaka, and was playing 130 to 150 concerts a year there with that group for a while. That was a wild ride, a really transformative experience for me. Came back to the States, and shortly thereafter got a position as a fellow with the Civic Orchestra of Chicago, which is still where I am, and my what takes up most of my time. But really feeds, I've been passionate for a long time about community engagement, community building through music. And the Civic Fellows are really, really passionate about that, doing projects with the Chicago public school system and songwriting projects with folks across the city, engaging folks in a really wide variety of ways. So that takes up most of my time, but I also, this year, I'm lucky to be able to play a lot of concerts with Dubuque Symphony, and I have a position with Illinois Symphony as well. I teach at Lake Forest College. I teach private lessons at Glenbrook High Schools on the north side of Chicago. So I keep busy, but
you sound very busy.
Yeah, and like Eleanor, right? Just piecing stuff together, doing a little bit of everything here and there. So.
Well, we're so fortunate to have you, all 3 of you. We feel very lucky to have this level of talent in the Dubuque Symphony. Well, tell us a little bit about your thoughts on the Corelli. I mean, I know it wasn't necessarily a piece that you picked to solo in, and sometimes when you're featured as a soloist, you have a say in, like, this is what I'd like to play. But in this case, I was like, I want to program Corelli. And I was telling you before we were recording that actually I heard it on the radio, and it was so beautiful. And it was like during like the height of the pandemic time, and it was so just gorgeous. I thought it would be very comforting. That I thought we should program this, and I thought, oh, this would be great to feature you guys. So, anybody want to chime in about Corelli and this piece, or any of the challenges of it, or?
I think you never have to twist string player's arm to play Corelli too much, because it's, as much as it isn't on the concert stage as often as Baroque composers like Bach or Vivaldi or Handel, he ends up being sort of a cult classic with string players that just end up loving this stuff. So I've never played this one. There's a whole bunch of pieces that are like this, that sort of feature three musicians, 2 violins and cello, and then have sort of a backup band, if you will, of the rest of the orchestra that are more involved than you'd see in a concerto, a romantic concerto, where the orchestra is really, sort of in the back, plays a secondary role to the soloist. So this is really integrated, and you'll hear the solo parts kind of weaving in and out of the orchestra part. And oftentimes we're actually playing the same thing. The solo will pop out. In Baroque music, there's also a lot of opportunity for embellishment and kind of even improvisation. So we were just on a meeting now before this talking about that William is sort of the dream conductor for this. And he said, I just want you to do whatever you want and be happy. I have these suggestions, but he's been great about it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It's interesting how the solo parts are like built into the rest of the accompaniment parts, and then they break away and then they go back in. And there's something really kind of cool about that. Obviously he was trying to create different kinds of textures and sonic variety. One of the things that I was surprised at, and like we talked about just the like 4 of us before, was that he often doesn't like put the second violins in like a secondary role. Just like the second violin solo part is also sometimes the leader, and just like that, even the second violins as a section sometimes have the top voice of the melody, and he's sort of dovetailing the top voice of the actual melody and passing it off. And so one of the things that we're going to experiment with on the stage at Five Flags Theater is to have the violins across from each other, so that the audience will have a really wonderful stereo kind of effect where the top voice is here and then it's there. It's like between speakers. So that's one of the things that I think Corelli was maybe going after. And so the Beatles didn't invent that, or whoever it was. It was like, it goes way back to the Baroque era.
Yeah, I was going to say, as a cellist especially, the thing I really love about Corelli, with many Baroque composers, it can feel like you're playing as the backup band as a cellist in pieces like this. And Corelli, everyone's always involved. It feels like everyone is equally valued in this music, which is really rewarding. So yeah, it's nice to have a little something to do in these pieces.
And you have a more than a little in For some reason, Corelli must have had a really outstanding cellist at his disposal, because the cello solo part in the second movement, the Allemande, is, I don't know, how would you describe it, Philip?
Nonstop. Just Energizer Bunny. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
It's amazing, really. I mean, it's talk about like a motor propelling the music forward, but it's incredibly like arguably the most difficult part in this whole thing is that cello part in that movement, and it's just very virtuosic. So yeah, it's cool. Peter, what are your thoughts on this? Have you done much Corelli before? Have you ever done any of his other concerti grossi, like the Christmas concerto? And
no, I listened to that last night.
It's nice, yeah.
To try and, because that's the one that comes up out of this opus, and so I was like, well, I've never heard it, so I should probably listen to that. No, I haven't really done much Corelli like this. I think maybe one of his concertos growing up. Yeah. But yeah, it is nice how the hierarchy isn't really like solo everyone else, because it gives us a chance to, and you can kind of explore like the tone colors that you were talking about. and kind of play with that between the different solo parts. And, you know, can we match, or do we kind of, are we countered to each other? And it's, I don't know, I think a lot of Baroque music is kind of like that, like with the Brandenburg too, you know, when you have your little chance in the spotlight, it's much different than, you know, orchestra playing or even concerto stuff where you're always trying to be above everyone else. But this is more like a community thing.
Yeah, you're right. It is. And there's something about that lack of hierarchy too that sort of encourages a kind of spirit of, I don't know, camaraderie amongst all the parts, you know, in the music. There's some surprising kind of moments in this piece where there's like a silence or like a kind of surprising harmonic arrival and things like that. And so I feel like there's like more drama than you might expect, but in a different way than like Vivaldi with some of his tone paintings, or Bach with some of his, you know, other exceptional things that he did. And there's, I don't know, I mean, it's, maybe this is sort of typical of Corelli is what I'm wondering, you know, is like one of the other things that he can be known for. But this piece and this whole set of, I guess there were 12 altogether, Concerto Grossos that he was getting ready to publish before he died, but that came from earlier in his life, and we don't know what year it was first performed, but it really was inspiring to later composers, because this was like about a generation before Bach and Handel. And so of course, Handel also has a set of Concerto Grossos with the same opus number, which was probably like an homage to Corelli, which is cool. And probably some of you have done the Handel ones too. I know I did that. In fact, I don't know, Eleanor, maybe you were involved in this, but when I was living in the Twin Cities in the 90s, I conducted the McPhail School of Music Chamber Orchestra, and we did a couple Handel Concerto Grossos. Were you ever in that group?
I wasn't. But I will say, growing up in, you know, youth orchestra situations, these pieces are often used because it gives students an opportunity to kind of shine without being 100% in the spotlight. Teaches a lot of great skills about Baroque performing that maybe aren't as complicated as something Bach would write, but are just as musically valuable and fun to play, fun to put together. So they can kind of work on any level. Like you can use it as a student piece, or, you know, obviously you can perform these at the absolute highest level as well.
That's a great point. Well, do any of you have any other thoughts on the piece or anything else you'd like to share with our audiences before we sign off? All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this today. And thank you especially for all the wonderful musicianship you're bringing to our stage. And we're so looking forward to featuring the three of you.
That's great. Thanks for having us today.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eleanor, Peter, Philip. It's great to see you all. Thank you all for tuning in. And we hope you enjoy our Classics 2 concerts, March 20th and 21st. Take care. Bye-bye.